And 3, 2, 1, boom. And we're back in another episode of Crack Gamers. This is Crack Dialogue, where we talk about cool stuff. Well, one cool thing we thought of during the week. Before, if you were paying attention, we used to talk about 4 cool things. Actually, it was kind of like, it's weird when you think about the evolution of this, eh? Because it's like, we started off with just like talking as we played over video games.
Yeah.
And then it became like 4 things, and then we went back to like, now we're like doing one thing. With different segments.
Yeah.
So it's Crack Dialogue. This week we're talking about the invisible industry.
Yeah, what is that?
So it's kind of like that thing that you knew about the whole time, but like, well, I guess not really knew about. It's like, how do I put this the best way?
Well, you were doing it, didn't realize.
We were doing it, but we didn't. We were like analyzing it, but we didn't know that there was a name for it. So I'm reading this book right now called The Reality Bubble. And when I first saw it, I was like, what does it mean? Like reality bubble, you know? But then as I'm getting into it, it's like, oh, it's sort of like, the .com bubble, the housing bubble.
Yeah.
So a bubble is something that's like going to pop, right?
Okay.
So like a reality bubble is like, we're approaching this stage in our like, not evolution, but like our social understanding due to the internet and like these documentaries that are coming out that like our reality is about to pop. Like the thing that we thought was one way turned out to be another way. Right. So they actually, the author coins the term the invisible industry. I don't know if they coined it, but like it was used in the book, and okay. I was like, oh, that's a good way of putting it. So basically what the invisible industry is like the hidden aspects of things that you didn't know that went on during things, for things that you're like, oh, this is a normal thing.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like I'll just jump in with like the example from the book, and then we can deconstruct like other things that,
sure, you
never really thought about.
Yeah.
So in the book they talk about like slaughterhouses, right? And like how we think, as animal rights activists, not us, but like there are animal rights activists, and they're like, oh, like slaughterhouses are bad, blah blah blah. But like, sure, if you don't consume meat, you think you're doing like a thing, like you're a part.
Yeah.
But like the resources that are gained through the animal rights stuff, through the slaughterhouses are like the resources are being utilized beyond just meat. Okay, so like she talks about like gelatin, which is like bones, right? So gelatin is used in Jello, and it's also used on like pills, like that like
tablets.
Tablets. So like those,
the
like
coating, not the coating,
the rubbery, yes, that rubbery coating, right?
The capsule, like, the capsule.
Yeah, so like if you have like medicine, like let's say vitamin D oil pills, right? The outer layer of that is gelatin.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But so then you're like, okay, so I just won't take that. Right. And you're like, okay, but that's not the extent of it. We actually use gelatin in plastic bags. Right. So it's like the coating, the film, the coating of the plastic is gelatin.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Coating, so it's like, so you're kind of like, okay, I just won't eat meat. Yeah. Okay, I just want to take capsules. Okay, so I won't use plastic bags. All right, but the film, like film for movies, like film strips are made of gelatin as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you escape what it is we are? You know what I'm saying?
Do they still use film strips?
Yeah, for when you go to the movie theater.
Are you sure that's not a digital projection?
I don't think so. I think they still use film.
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't know.
When did that switch? Because I remember like my sister used to work in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And, like they were using film there.
Yeah.
But that was like 5 years ago. So you're saying it like recently switched?
I don't think that was 5 years ago. But I don't know when. I'm not sure. Maybe some movies still take
like film strips.
Yeah.
And then others use. All right, but anyways,
it would make more. I don't know. Yeah.
Irregardless.
But I know what you're saying. Like it's in other things, right? It's
just right. Or if you take a photograph, like if you're taking, those like old school
film.
Yeah. Old school film, gelatin as well. But like that's just what they've they've explored, right? But there's like definitely more
Yeah.
uses for gelatin. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, generally, like the pills and stuff. That's like the most common, I would say. Like things like the movies do change in tech, but like it's in a lot of things,
Yeah,
basically.
totally.
Yeah,
It's in a lot of things.
that's the
So
whole
it's like
point. Yeah, yeah.
it's like my all right. Let's go through other examples, and then I'll like pose my question to you.
Sure.
So do you got a good example of one?
No, I don't know.
All right. Well, I have Chernobyl as one. So we watched Chernobyl, and it's like
Okay.
you we like love our energy, right? Which is like steam. So like basically the way nuclear power is it like it's just creating steam, which creates energy for us,
Yeah.
right? And it's like the cleanest one, but there's radiation
Well,
associated
yeah.
with it, right? Because like even though it might not be pouring out into us, but there's like radiation for people that have to go and check the stuff, right? So it's like one of our friends, like he works in a nuclear power plant, and he like even though he wears all the stuff, if you get some of that dust on you, you're getting radiation.
Yeah.
So it's like you're indirectly killing. So it's like oh, I support like clean energy. It's like okay, but do you support like people dying over your clean energy? You know what I mean? Like where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Another good example is like Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves Amazon, but like they have those ridiculous like labor issues,
Yeah.
like efficiency issues, and it's like we're gonna underpay you and so much pressure because we got to get these things on time. And it's like yeah, but we
Mm-hmm.
all love Amazon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's another one I had on here? Oh, the music industry. So for the music industry, you have like a lot of people who like you listen to music and you're like, oh, this is awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you don't realize that the artist is getting a terrible deal. That's why a lot of them are going independent now.
Yeah.
Right? They're going through like Apple Music, Spotify, and they're making their money other ways.
Yeah.
Because they get locked into a deal where it's like every CD you make, if you watch Artifact, 30 Seconds to Mars is like a documentary on music. Basically, it talks about how like every time you put out a CD, you go into debt. So it's like a never-ending cycle of debt, right? Yeah. So that's why a lot of artists are just like, okay, I'm not gonna like Macklemore was like huge on that, where he's gonna go independent.
Mm-hmm.
He never wanted to get signed. So it's like, okay, well, I like music, but you don't like the way they're treating their artists.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Another one is well, slavery back in the day. I heard this one. I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. So like we abolished slavery in the West. We think of it as like a movement to like free people, right? Like yeah, slavery's wrong, right? But a lot of the people that wanted to abolish slavery were like the people who couldn't make money because they're like, okay, these slaves are stealing our jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like we think of it in an altruistic way. It's like man should not be a slave to another man, right? But it's in reality, it's like no, it's like it's an economics thing, and the people in power, they're like, well, this is just cheap labor. They talk about like the prison economy now, how it's like people in prisons, they're basically slaves because they have to work, right?
Yeah.
But they get paid like nothing, like 2 cents or something like that per
Yeah.
hour. Yeah. So anyways, or actually final one, because Hassan Minaj talked about it, like the oil. So like we think of like oil as like okay, just don't drive your car, but like if you look at the clothing industry, like a lot of those clothes are made out of oil, right? And like a lot, it's like where do you store that when it's done?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like the logistics, you're using oil and then you're creating like garbage and pollution because like where do I put all those clothes that are like being thrown out? And like but people love fashion, right? So my ultimate question is like, where do you draw the line? Like what is good and bad? Is there good and bad? I know we talked about this, but it's like is there even any point to it? Almost seems like it'll be a perpetual struggle between like good, not good, but like it'll be a perpetual struggle between like the have and the have nots. And we're always just balancing back and forth between like how society should be structured and run.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, is there any point to like fighting for your rights?
Any point to?
Yeah.
I think it'll be probably locally might help. Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk like that.
Yeah, like I don't know. Personally, I'm just like, it's almost like you just want to step back and be like you guys deal with it. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
Yeah, but then no one deals with it, then, right?
that's true. For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. But it's like from both sides of the coin, you're dealing with like ignorance. It's like the people fighting for like change don't realize how systemic the change is, and the people who are fighting against change, yeah, like keeping the status quo.
Yeah.
It's like they don't realize like the ramifications of their actions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah.
on both sides of the coin, you have like confused people being confused, and it seems like a human characteristic of like always being unsatisfied.
Yeah. But that's what we're evolved on, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like that story of like the Garden of Eden, right? Like you're in the Garden of Eden, and then you get kicked out, and then nothing is perfect anymore.
Right.
But then the analogy is like the Garden of Eden is like your ignorance, and then you wake up to the reality situation,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, this is actually, and we're like, our whole mission is to get back to, perfect states. But it almost seems like the perfect state is to realize like it's just gonna forever be us fighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, what do you think? Is there any way like around it, or?
I don't think so. I think it's probably the human condition, right?
So do you think we're just destined to like put ourselves out of our own misery?
Out of our own misery?
Yeah, like, do you think we're just gonna like end our own species because of our own ignorance? Like with the whole Chernobyl thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if they didn't
Right.
figure out how to fix. So basically, what happened in Chernobyl is like, because people were trying to cut costs, they ended up exploding the reactor, and then that thing spewed so much radiation that like Europe saw so many increases in like cancer and deformities and like early deaths and stuff, right? Like that.
I mean,
right?
in Russia, yeah.
Yeah, but where do those winds take it? Like, what are the ramifications of that event?
Right, our own destruction in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they couldn't fix it,
Yeah.
where would we be? Because like they were saying that thing would keep on spewing out toxic radiation for like some of them even 50,000 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you didn't know how to stop that, where would we be? We would have just destroyed ourselves. It's almost like we're always on the brink of like our own destruction by our own hand.
Yeah, I think I did say that, like, we're just doing things that are like short-term gains. We don't really necessarily know what will be the long-term effect of them, right?
Yeah, totally.
But then that's just how we all live, though, right? We
Yeah,
don't
like,
really know the long term until
it happens.
True,
but like they were saying, like this could have been avoided if they just didn't cut costs.
Yeah, but then it's the whole thing of like they have to stay
competitive
with
right.
the Western world, but they don't have the same amount of money that the Western world does, so they have to do these sort of things. It's just
right. Totally. I see your point, and it's like, so maybe the only way to achieve world peace is when all of us stop looking out for our own gain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
more collectively, you're saying?
More collectively, but like,
yeah.
If we do that, then it's like there's going to be people who cheat the system.
Yeah.
So it's like it can never be foolproof. Right. Unless we have like a totalitarian government, which is like they had kings right back then, and like, but then how can you trust the people on top?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like there is no effective way to like govern our society.
Yeah, it's just always going to be a learning thing, evolving thing, I guess.
It almost seems like in life you have to choose which battles you want to take on,
right?
But to realize that the battle you choose to take on is a naive battle, because any battle is naive. But like, all right, so you might be like, if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, that's an interesting perspective, right? But it's like a lot of like spiritual teachers said that same thing. That's why a lot of monks just went into the mountains.
Right.
Because they're like, oh, society's messed up.
Yeah.
You know, they knew that like it's impossible to govern such a like 7 billion people. How do you do that? With like, you have 7 billion people with their own agendas, their own motives, their own desires.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. What do you mean? Yeah, how do we...
You can't do it,
yeah,
right?
you can't, yeah.
Which brings into like the thought of like Thanos. Remember how Thanos is like, all right, I'm just gonna like slaughter half the universe because there's just too much overconsumption.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, yeah, I kind of gather what you're saying. Like, I'm not saying go out and slaughter half the you know, I'm not like calling for like terrorist stuff. I'm just like, you'd have to see like the futility of your ways. Like when Faraz on that podcast, he was saying Faraz Sahabi, he was saying like nihilism is the ultimate fate for any intellectual, because it's to realize like that everything you do is futile, right?
Yeah.
But then for me, it's like acceptance is the defeat of nihilism, because you just accept your experience and then you just enjoy it from there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is what you taught me, because it's like if this is what we're doing, if we're just complaining, it's like there's no use in complaining.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like if everybody's fighting for something but they don't realize the totality of the situation at hand, then it's like, then we're just shouting. And there's no point in shouting.
Right.
This is just what the human species is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But again, I mean, everyone has a different like goal or whatever in life, I guess, right?
Like some of us feel fulfillment for fighting for things, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
well, I enjoy watching them.
Yeah, I feel you.
Right.
But you know what I resonate with the most? It's like Gandhi's perspective, where it's like, be the change you seek.
Right.
So it's like stop telling people what to do and just like do it yourself.
Right.
And then people will follow by your example. Like, be the exemplar in life.
Yeah.
You know, if you want something to change, you just do it. And then your life will change. Doesn't mean the world will change. It just means your life will change.
Yeah, you might change some other like people around you, and then maybe they'll affect some. Like, that's the general idea of that.
Right, yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly.
It's like but that's like a grassroots movement thinking, though.
True, yeah. And you become like a domino effect.
Yeah.
But it's like, but it gives people the freedom to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, okay, if the giant cluster is headed for an avalanche or an iceberg, you know, it's like, okay, well, at least I'll be happy in my little cluster as the giant ship, the Titanic, heads towards the iceberg.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, if we're gonna head towards the iceberg anyways, might as well enjoy the luxuries of the ship while we can. You know? But I don't mean in terms of like consume. I just mean in terms of like, realize that this is your life experience. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's like, you can't. You know, they say like one person can make a difference. Okay, well, how does that one person make a difference without a team? Right. Or else it would just be that one person doing his own thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, we really can't change anything. We can only find collective people that think the same. But even if, like, let's say you're so successful, you change a province, and then you end up changing a country. How do you change other countries? You know what I mean? We don't live like they live. Like, one good example is like that place in Russia that Tara always looks at. Like,
yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, so for us, it's like -3 here, but over there it's like -30. You know? So it's like, we're dealing with different variables. So I will never know what it's like to live in a -30 place. I can't govern or make decisions for you.
Yeah.
Maybe overconsumption is important for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's your situation, your life perspective. It's easy to sit on like a high chair and be like, people should live like this, but we don't know what other people live like.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a very elitist mentality, I think. To be like, the world should be run this way, you know, or like people should do this thing.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, in a lot of sense, it is the Western world saying that, but the Eastern side are in a different path too, right? Like, it's in conflict there. I don't know if you can really gain what you want.
Right. Because of corruption. World. Oh, right.
In
yeah, but because the variables are different.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's more corruption there. but there's also more resources, right? Because it's like warm,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
The only way I think you just have to, if you want them to do things, I think this is what, like, you would have to help them do it or pay for some things, or, like, you know what I mean, like,
True, yeah, I see what you're
in
saying.
that way versus
But it's like, how do you
pushing
know?
them to go one
How do
way.
you? But like, you don't. Again, you don't know the
Yeah,
ramifications of your decision. So it's like, okay, let's say we're like, oh,
yeah,
you guys need more food there, so we're gonna open up these factories to give you more food, and then you end up kicking out the locals who are already making food. Like, what happens to their industry?
yeah. So, like, that reminds me of, like, when people were sending these mosquito nets
Okay.
in Africa
Uh-huh.
to stop malaria or something.
Okay.
And then the one person that came here was, like, doing a talk, and she was like, "That's not the way to do it. You should be helping because, well, by sending those, you're affecting the local businesses who make
Mosquito
the
nets.
mosquito nets,
Right. Exactly.
and
So
you're
you're putting
affecting
them
their
out of
business.
business.
So, like, you should be helping them make it, like, or sending money in that way for some other things. But, like, uh, uh, like, you don't realize the ramifications on local businesses that
Right. That's what I'm
that you're
saying.
having on. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
Imagine being like a world leader. That's like an impossible job because every decision you make has like a domino effect.
yeah.
Like you can never make the most perfect decision. I think that's what they spend their entire life, like their entire careers doing. Like, can I? Well, no, no. All right, the altruistic ones are like looking for that one solution that will domino effect and put everything into place and everything will be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the other ones are like, let me look out for my team, my
Yeah.
country, you
Right.
know. So
Yeah.
it's like it,
Yeah.
you know, it's competition. It's a competition over resources because we have not infinite resources
Yeah.
and we have a lot of people looking out for their own team,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Especially, like, you can see that now too. It's just like, with North Korea and other parts of the world, like the way they view North Korea. But then why is North Korea, like, left out?
Oh, I see what you're
Of the,
saying.
like,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that instigates them to be more, like,
More like,
aggressive
yeah, yeah,
or
totally, totally. It's like,
um.
oh, what's that thing where it's like, you become, I forgot what it's like. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you you're garbage, then you're gonna just end up becoming like, oh yeah, I find it will be garbage then. You know what I mean? They're not gonna evolve themselves and be like, the whole world's calling us trash.
Yeah.
Let's show them that we're not trash. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
they're going to
Yeah.
be thinking, okay, you want me to be trash? I'll be trash.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, that's a great example because North Korea is one of those last remaining places where it's like everyone's kind of like, ooh, that place is sketch.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So it's like, how are you gonna deal with that? You have like a totalitarian ruler who believes himself to be a god, and then the rest of the world's like, no, that's not how that works.
Right.
So it's like you're in your pursuit to make equality, you're infringing on the person's rights who doesn't want to be equal. You know what I'm
Right. Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you need to be this way because there'll be peace. But in asking for peace, you're taking away my freedom of choosing individuality over
Mm.
collectivism.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I want to be individualistic, not collectivistic.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tricky world, I guess. There's so many things to do.
you know how we'll get world peace?
Oh.
Robots. When we become the batteries like the Matrix for the robots, then there'll be world peace because the robot will have one objective in mind instead of like it's like the hive mind, right? Like you have one
What do you mean
predominant
when you say
goal.
robots? Like,
Like
what kind of robots are we
if
talking?
robots enslave human race,
Oh.
I mean like that, like
Oh, or like
Matrix,
aliens, right? What about
or
aliens?
like aliens. Yeah, if they
Yeah.
enslave us, then they'll have world peace because humans will be out of the equation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. Well, if you take away choice and free will, well, actually, I don't believe in free will. If you take away choice,
The illusion of free will.
and the illusion of free will, then you will have. Actually, no, I don't even think. I think it's just who we are to our core.
Which is, what do you mean?
Like this whole instability
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
just human nature at its core.
Yeah.
We're just an unstable species.
Um, yeah. I agree. I mean,
When you get too large, because like small tribes can live together in harmony.
but even within that, there will be sometimes factions, right?
Right, but the onus of blame is
Yeah,
more
yeah,
direct.
yeah.
You know? So if there's like 10 of us in a
Right.
room, we're probably never gonna fight. Might fight a little bit, but we'll resolve it, right? But like if there's 1,000 of us, 10,000 of us, then it's like the like there's more heads, more, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
opportunity for dissent.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I see what you're
You
saying.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like smaller groups, smaller groups create peace
Mm-hmm.
because we live more harmoniously. Because like the consequences of our actions are more direct. They're seen. You know, if I don't want to share my resources with you, like the 9 other people are gonna be like, "What a jerk,"
Yeah.
you know, and they'll be like, "Oh, all right, I'm not a jerk." But like when you start getting bigger, it's like
Yeah, maybe like that, but then,
yeah.
there will be also, that's why we have multiple smaller communities, and when they do clash for resources,
Right,
again,
no, but to see
it
that,
goes back.
that's where I was gonna go for it. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so then maybe that's the solution, multiple small communities. But it's like, no, then those small communities will start fighting other communities for their resources, and we'll be back to like history,
Yeah.
right? When we had kingdoms.
Yeah, maybe that's just inevitable for us in a way. I mean, this is also new in a way to have a huge population, but you also,
In a time of peace to actually think about things,
yeah, that's
you
true.
know,
Yeah. Yeah, we are in the spot of having the most peace.
on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know. I guess we can technically have more peace. I don't know. Is that possible?
Can you have more peace? But I think so. But we just have to get rid of desire.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have like a hive mind. We need to be enslaved by robots. You know what I mean? Like you need to take away the fundamental component that makes humans human,
Right. Right.
which is like our ability to our freedom,
Yeah.
perceived freedom. But
Right.
yeah,
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like at our core, we all want to be individualistic, right? Like think about
Yeah.
it. It's like we all want to be unique snowflakes.
I think it depends on how these general culture is.
Okay.
I don't know if that might have a lot of impact on if you think like that,
Oh,
being
right. Yeah, that's what you're
individualistic.
saying.
It's a very American thing. Um,
Right. Oh, very Western thing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I could see that. To
Uh,
like want for yourself.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm saying it depends on the upbringing generally, uh, or the cultural outlook on those sort of things. Yeah.
But you have so many different cultures.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like, all right, so now we're eradicating culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it, yeah. The only way.
But like they will see the benefits. Like I think you can see it from the West too, or the East too. That like they want what the West has, right?
Yeah,
Or the
for
East.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah, the
true.
West. Yeah, we're the West.
It almost seems like this is gonna sound really weird, but it is like just go with it. It's almost like peace on earth is enslavement,
Right.
right? Because it's the only way to get everyone in line, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all want peace on earth. Okay, so I'm gonna enslave you to focus on being peaceful on
But
earth.
I think there might be like something to do with that. It's because it's like the most, uh, like where we, the whole idea of losing the freedoms, right? And then wanting to get those things back. In a way, we'll have to generally help everyone to do that, right? Like,
Yeah, but all right, sure. I see what you're saying. Totally, we have to help everyone. Okay, but we have limited resources.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, if there's one piece of bread, who's gonna get that piece of bread?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're, yeah, in a way designed like that. Like within, chimpanzees and bonobos, you can see the same kind of thing.
Yeah, with that scientific experiment where they gave like a grape to one monkey for doing a task, and then they gave like a cucumber to the other
Yeah.
one. The one who got the cucumber got pissed. He's like, "What the hell's this? It's not a grape."
Yeah.
You know?
Or even, yeah, there was other ways to do, like, yeah, that kind of, that's equality, I guess, right? Test.
Yeah, true,
Yeah.
true, true. Well, I actually, well, think about this now. Like nature, the only time you ever see peace in the only time you ever see peace in the kingdom of nature, the animal kingdom, is through enslavement. The queen for the ant, the king, lion.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's always like one leader that everyone listens to,
Yeah,
and
we
then
did the
within that
same
tribe,
thing though, right?
right? But no, but we don't want that anymore. We want like democratic rule, so we all get to vote. Imagine all the lions being
Yeah, but we're
like, "Oh, I
still
get to
voting
vote."
on a leader, right?
Right, right. But he doesn't have total rule,
Yeah, right.
but because we can still vote him out. So
Yeah.
it's like the definition of democracy is people rule,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like people rule on a leader, and if that leader sucks, we switch him
Yeah,
out,
yeah, yeah.
right? But then that's not like in nature they don't have that. They have like the fittest survive.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
best lion
yeah,
is going to become the king of the jungle,
yeah.
and then everyone falls in line. And then if you want to battle, it's a meritocracy in in the
Well,
animal
that's like
kingdom.
it's
It's
like that's the
meritocracy,
general role for the males in lions, right? To try to take over a pride.
right? But they have peace until like if all the lions got a chance at becoming leader, he
Mm-hmm.
probably wouldn't see peace. He'd probably see chaos.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and because then there'd be infighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting world, I guess. Where
that's
else
why you
can
can
you?
just observe it. Like,
Yeah, that's
just
what I do.
you just can't really get involved in it because it's like,
Well, if it's not
who's
what you
gonna do
want to
that
get
job?
involved in, yeah. Again, it depends on what you want to do with your life in a way,
Yeah, true.
right?
I agree with that. But I think the most observant, the most objective person is the one who just sees it for what it is.
Yeah, but then it depends on what you like. If there was no Martin Luther King,
No, I agree. Yeah.
right? So there,
No,
and
no,
that's what
for
I'm
sure.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. No, no. You need like people to move the needle,
yeah,
but at the end of the day, we're just moving the needle back and forth.
right.
Like we're
But
in our pursuit of total equality.
yeah, I think it generally moves like that. But I don't know. It's like maybe it's like two steps forward, sometimes one like one step back, or like
Yeah, I see what you're
another.
saying.
Like it's more like that. Yeah, we won't technically go back to
Yeah, no, no, I see what you're
exactly how
saying.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But then like one of the other spectrums is like how much equality is too much equality?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're dealing with that thing now where like the foxkin stuff. I love that example where the person was like, I identify as a fox. So he's like, I'm a foxkin, I'm not a human. And they had to like listen to him
Right.
because it's like, okay, equality.
Mm-hmm.
So like is that detrimental? You know what I mean? Like
Right. Right. Yeah. I guess it could be. That's generally happening only in the places where they have the most freedoms, right?
yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly, exactly. But like if we're analyzing it from like world peace,
Mm.
the definition would be everybody gets everything they want. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like how do you define world peace? That's actually probably the first question. Like we want world peace. All right, how do you define world peace?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everyone gets everything. It's like, okay, well, there's not infinite resources, so redefine it. Everybody becomes understanding. Okay, so then you must be understanding the person that doesn't want world peace.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like a
Yeah.
paradox. It's like
Yeah.
it's always looping on itself. It's like every time you think you have the answer, there's always a rebuttal to that answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like Socrates' why game.
Right.
Socrates is like it's like this why because of this why because of this
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
That's the Socratic method, always asking why.
Yeah.
And then the yoking method is just accepting whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we are already at world peace for the people who observe and experience it as world peace
Right.
because their world is at peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think we've said something similar before,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, yeah. I just found that really interesting about the invisible industry. Yeah.
So okay. So what? How does that impact us? Like, what is it trying to really
What do you mean, world peace or
the?
invisible industry?
Yeah.
It impacts us because in our seemingly woke ways, we're just demonstrating our own ignorance
Mm.
by proclaiming to be woke and pursuing
Right.
woke things.
Right. I think
you're
what I
just
was
really
saying
ignorant.
yesterday too was like I see like we were connecting like there's so many things involved in with animal products or like with oil or with whatever it's connected to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the general population don't know that, but I'm wondering like if those extremists who are followed that to the extreme, would try to cut these things out. I guess.
Like those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those people in like Vice docs. Like they live in the forest and stuff, and they like the people who live off the grid,
Yeah.
right? But like, who wants to live off the grid?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like yeah, okay, the solution is living off the grid. Okay, go live off the grid.
Right.
But in living off the grid, you're just leaving me alone.
Mm.
But that's also what monks did, right? Monks,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
lived off the grid.
Yeah.
They lived in the mountains
Yeah.
because they realized, if you want to be a part of society, well, society's fundamentally flawed.
So will that happen here too, where they would?
People live off the grid.
Yeah.
Well, if they lived off the grid, we would just never have to listen to them complain.
Right.
You know
What I'm saying is like, will that happen? Then eventually, will that happen? Where they would just see that it might not be working, whatever they're trying to do. And
I think the people that decide to live off the grid are going to just separate themselves further and further from the elite,
mm-hmm.
right? Because it's like we're gonna go live off the grid. Cool, man.
I mean, I've
keep
seen
making money.
some people do that already. Actually, yeah.
Live off the grid.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
there are some actually,
But how do they?
but
Get
they're
the
like
resources?
individually.
How do they eat?
Local stuff.
So they
Whatever they're growing, I guess.
Okay, but where do they live?
Like in the forest.
Yeah, but like in Canada or like because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
cold.
yeah.
What are you gonna create in the forest?
No, like hunt
in
and
winter?
stuff.
You're gonna hunt,
Yeah.
but then even in that, you're taking a life.
Yeah, I know.
So it's like
It's more like it's more about.
but no. What I'm saying is like
Yeah.
it's like okay, we're gonna live off the grid. Okay, but you're still killing.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like that is one of those people that have lived off the grid, but they're not, I don't know if technically would call them like vegans or whatever like that. I don't know how they would potentially live in a cold area. You would have to go to a warmer climate to be able to have all the things that you need.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's what I mean about resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So like, all right, let's say you're like a vegan activist and you want to live off the grid. So you can't obviously live in Canada. So you're going to go to a warmer climate. Okay, but there's only so much land in a warmer climate. So again, it's like the bread example. It's like there's one piece of bread, who's going to get it? There's one piece of land, who's going to get it?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to come a point when there's not enough land and we're all going to fight for it.
Yeah, I mean, even
not infinite resources makes for war.
I mean, but we've gone in these stages over and over too. It's like these sort of things that what's going on now is I don't think it's necessarily not new because it was kind of like that during the 60s.
No, totally. That's what I'm saying. But that's what I mean. It's like we're just bickering over nothing.
But they did their ashrams. Remember, like even Steve Jobs was part of one of those Hare Krishna people, and then they had their own farm or something.
Okay, yeah.
But then he saw like how the problems, like even in-house problems happening too within that even small group that it was. But it's just it goes back and forth, I guess.
But that's what I mean. So like the most observant, objective person is the one who just steps back and just like, okay, you guys bicker.
But I wonder it's like it's also like with the like the age you're at too, right? Like you feel more of a rebellious when you're younger, but then once you start getting older, you see the way that it is how it always has been, kind of like sometimes.
Actually that's funny because I even gone through that myself when I was very idealistic. Remember, I was like, okay, the whole world, and that's why we started that academy, like that Persistence Academy, because we're like, okay, we're gonna change the world with this, and then like over time you start to realize like, oh, that's a naive thought.
Yeah, or it's a bigger thing to do when what you're fighting against, basically, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also impossible. So the only thing you can really do is just like lead by example. It's like, okay, so I choose to, subject myself to X, but not Y.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's all you really can do.
All you can really do is just accept the situation at hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can have your opinion of it, sure, because we all have our opinions, but at the end of the day, it's like it is what it is.
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
To be a truly accepting person, I think, is to accept everything. The good and the bad, you know? Like, because they're like, oh, like the Dalai Lama is so holy. And it's like, if you have any objection as to why something should not be a certain way, then you are a part of the problem, not the solution.
Right.
Because you're creating more separation between things. You know? It's like, you know, the most understanding individual, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, they have their own perspective of how you should behave. And if you have a perspective of how somebody should behave, then you're not actually accepting. Because you're telling someone how to do something rather than just letting them be that thing.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main thing, is just lead by example.
Yeah, that's actually why a lot of now that I think about it, in a lot of like Zen scriptures and stuff, they say like if you meet a Zen master, you'll never know they're a Zen master because they're so normal. They're just doing their own thing.
Right.
They're not like out there trying to champion anything because they realize the futility of that. It's like, I'll become the spiritual. The closest I've ever seen is Osho, you know, because like his perspectives were very real, you know,
right,
where he dealt with like the mind stuff, and like he was actually nearing the end, he became like a Zen person, you know. That's why he had like the Rolls Royces plus preaching stuff, because he was like living in both worlds, you know. But still, he fell short, I thought, because it's like he would criticize other religions, you know. But if you criticize something, then you're not actually accepting of anything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
But I think like this idea, this notion of world peace is that we accept everything, you know, but within reason. See what I'm saying? It's like we accept everything within reason. So it's like, so then you don't accept everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a limitation.
Yeah, and if there's a limitation to your level of acceptance, then you're not actually accepting. You may be like a high functioning accepting person.
Yeah.
You know, your threshold for acceptance is very high, but there's a limit. And if there's a limit, it means you're not actually fully accepting.
Yeah, true.
You know, it's like a fundamental flaw,
right,
in your you know, in your proposition.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe but can you be completely denouncing? You know what I mean? So like, all right, there's one end where it's like completely accepting. Okay, we saw the fundamental flaw. If you see a limitation, then you're not fully accepting. But completely denouncing?
And what does that mean?
Like can you be like, okay, so like what I'm trying to say here is like, so we champion to be a completely accepting society.
Yeah.
Right? So that's us trying to create world peace by being ultimately accepting. Right? But then I'm wondering if the other spectrum, it's like, if we completely denounce everything, like don't do that, 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 it's like, what can you achieve world peace that way?
At two extremes?
Yeah.
In a way. Maybe? Because I mean, has it been done before like that?
Like, yeah, that would be like a totalitarian government.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Right? So you have like one free society with the limitation of it being not totally free.
Yeah.
And then you have a completely denouncing society where it's like, no, I will tell you exactly how to behave. Maybe we're shooting for the wrong thing. Like I was saying the whole time, it's like, you need totalitarian governments. You need like one hierarchical system. You need one leader. If you want true world peace.
Yeah.
But nobody really wants world peace, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
You know, it's like, we think we want world peace, but we don't realize what world peace would entail. World peace would entail you losing all of your freedoms.
Right.
Yeah. We want peace? Okay, let's equally distribute all of our resources. Oh, but I want 2 pieces of bread, not one. Sorry. I get one.
Right.
because this person needs to eat too.
Yeah.
You know,
Not true.
right?
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? So maybe like the people that want world peace really want communism.
There is a lot of connection to that, actually. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah. Socialism, communism, like the one ruler.
Yeah.
Totalitarian governments.
Yeah.
So it's like to want world peace, you don't realize what you're asking
Wait, I
for.
think I thought that before, actually.
Oh, really?
Like,
Okay,
thought
cool.
that I think that, like, communism was the way to go, but, like, it's never been done right.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I did have that kind of thinking, actually.
Because that's what it is in nature.
Yeah.
If you really want harmony,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be governed by one thing.
Yeah.
That's saying this, not that.
Yeah.
Totally the opposite of a completely accepting society.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you really want world peace, you don't want acceptance.
I think in some ways it kind of is turning out to be like that, though. Like when
What do you mean?
they make like, oh, you shouldn't be saying this, you shouldn't be like, that's already putting rules to the freedoms, right?
Yeah, totally. And then we're just gonna wake up one day with like a governing body, like a world leader.
Yeah.
That's like total control. That's what cults are, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why there was so much peace in cults, because they would follow one leader.
Yeah.
Like if you watch the Osho doc.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what was it called? Wild Wild Country. So
Yeah.
everyone was happy. There was so much peace in it, but it's like, yeah, but he was like a ruling
Well, within
leader.
the group, right? Yeah.
Within the group,
Yeah.
within the group.
Yeah.
So it's like he was like, oh,
I mean,
the
you can-
whole world would be happy if we did this, but then it's like, yeah, but we're all bowing down to you.
Yeah.
But nobody wants that
Yeah. Well, some people did, I guess. That's why they joined them.
because they didn't see the end result of their decision. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's ever really worked that way in the long term, I guess.
Like one leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one person's gonna be like, this isn't freedom.
But then it's, yeah.
But they don't realize that freedom
But also,
means...
you know, no one's, the image that you have of him is not like the full image of him. So
Oh yeah,
that'll
like
also
a deity.
like,
They
yeah,
think of him
yeah,
like
that'll
as a
also
god.
break down the
Yeah, true.
the view. I think that's kind of what happened with him, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's like the same with others. I don't know, like Charles Manson. What about that guy?
Like, what do you mean? Huh?
Like he had a following too.
Oh right, yeah.
I forgot how that broke down, but like, well, I guess he
Probably realized he was a killer. I don't know.
Well, yeah, oh, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, cults are very interesting too. Just how that happens. Well, we kind of all,
Or part
Do
of
it
some
too.
sort of cult.
yeah.
You know,
Just
back in
something.
the day, they
Yeah.
would call like religions cults. It's the cult of Dionysus, the cult of Apollo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, but that was just the term, right?
Yeah, no,
It's
no,
like,
I understand it. Like a normal term. Yeah.
yeah, it's like if it's not like if it's not the monotheistic religion, then it's a cult,
Right.
because that's what they would say
Yeah,
about
yeah,
polytheism.
yeah.
Polytheism.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a mind.
I mean, they said it the other way around too, when it was mainly polytheism, and then
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's just like-
it's just in group, out group, freaking mentality. You're finding a way to say that the other one is wrong,
yeah,
you know, and that's what creates, disharmony.
mm-hmm.
But then if you just let yourself be fully led by one thing, then you're into enslavement, which is world peace.
Yeah.
Wow, that's it. Enslavement equals world peace. Right? Think about it,
Mm-hmm.
freedom equals
So in the way I rather
non-acceptance.
yeah, non-acceptance or not world peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll choose that over.
Oh, that's crazy. World peace equals enslavement. Freedom equals no world peace.
Yeah, I think I'll choose freedom.
Freedom? Yeah, I would choose freedom too.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Look at that. If you just unpack it long enough, you get like the logical flaw.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Interesting.
Yeah, that's a cool one. All right. Well, that was this week's episode of Socratic Dialogue, if you agree. Oh, I didn't even say this. pick up some teas on Zenreal.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's probably why I had like the little brain freeze in the beginning. I was like, I'm
You're
supposed
missing
to say something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. All right, yeah. So this episode is sponsored by Zenreal Clothing Co. Pick up some teas on zenrealclothingco.com and use the code SG Podcast for 20% off select items.
There's some Black Friday code too, right?
Oh yeah, there's a Black Friday code, but by the time this comes out, there'll still be the Black Friday code. Use BLK Friday for 30% off tees and hoodies.
Nice.
Yeah. But if it's after December 6th when you hear this, then the Black Friday code is now off. So until next time, choose freedom.
Yeah.
All right. Take it easy.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.